So I've got a pair of Ray-Bans on, and these are very nice because they graduate filtered. So at the bottom here, it's easy to see when you work on the camera and so on. But the reason I normally have these boys on is it is absolutely suited for this desert territory. With all the others, the blue lens, Ray-Ban and so on, it's got a very strong polarize. This hasn't got a strong polarize, but it sort of lightens up the shadow areas. So dark glasses or sunglasses are not just sunglasses. Pick the ones that suit the fact that you need to spot in this bright light, the same as a camera struggle with about a 4-stop light difference. The eye is much better than the camera, but the sunglasses can make it much, much easier. Within the Kgalagadi Transfrontier Park, we've got the 2 main roads going up towards the northwestern area of the park, and then we have the 2 dune roads that actually attach the 2 main roads up to the top. Now, although that is an open territory and it's probably one of the most favorable for wildlife photography because of the openness, it also becomes very difficult because you've got scattered shrubs, big Camelthorn trees and grasses that all the animals, even the lion uses even the smallest patch of grass for shade if it's necessary. So I think we see probably between 10 and 15 or 20% of all the wildlife that present itself because of them lying behind a patch of grass or behind a tree or in a tree in the shaded area, or just below a dune that you can't see. So what one should do is to actually maximize your opportunities. So you get guys that drive first. They want to get out of the gates first, to get to the wildlife first. But then you have guys that wait for 2 or 3 or 4 cars behind that would get things that the first vehicles would miss because it's still too dark. So there's various strategies and so on, but most importantly, I think we see about 20% what we're supposed to see. Now, of course, I'm not talking about the guys that just hunt the lion and all the big predators, because the biggest group in the park are the people that race and want to track where the predators are or the mega predators are. But if you're really interested in the total ecology of the Kgalagadi, traveling slowly and scanning all the shaded areas, stopping at the trees, looking at the owls and so on, is probably the most rewarding photographic experience. Be it as it may, there's certain things that we need to eliminate, like for instance glare, like the contrast in the shades and so on, that will make it easier, and to increase that 20% of what we see to about 50-60%. So to overcome all of these obstacles to actually maximize one's sightings of the animals, there are a plus, and the plus is that the water holes that are close to the road actually attracts the game from behind these shaded areas and hiding places to the open, that makes it easier for people to spot animals in specific periods of the day. About 2 weeks ago, there was so much water in the field and puddles of water lying over here and everywhere in the dunes that the water holes were not used, so they were basically useless from a game viewing photographic point of view. But this is the areas that and this specific water hole is where one gets very good Gemsbok fights, mock fights, as you can see over there. They sort of irritated when they get back to the water, and there's a pecking order of drinking, and they know exactly who the boykies is they must stay away with. But here's, for instance, an example of some footage I shot of Gemsbok fighting, and that is sitting for about 3 days waiting for the Gemsbok to fight and to envisage what I had to do. So I envisaged that there was some natural shots that I could get, but I also knew that there was some fine art images if I asked artists to do me a composite or to remove the background and to do some nice black and whites that would sell better than the normal one with a bit of distraction in the background. like you see, they're quite irritated, and there's another boykie come running in there. So he acts as if he's the boy around, but they'll soon sort out the pecking order. Let's turn around and see. I'm going to go and wait for Oti in the Botswana side, but let's turn around and just get the right vantage point and show you a little bit of what these guys do around the waterhole. It's a bit late, I think they drank already. So first what I have to do, this is the first day back, so I need to put this on continuous high, because if there's a fight over here, then you don't want to miss that one frame. So that's why the guys go for big frames, and you got things like, it's still on manual focus, it's too close, so 200 millimeters would be good for a full frame fight of two big ones. But of course it doesn't give me any idea. Even the 3 ones over there, it's still on manual. So let's get the mode right. Stick it on aperture mode. It's on f11 like I shot it last. It's not gonna work, so I want it on 6.3 and start getting my equipment. That's what happens the first day back. You can sort it out at the camp. You've seen yourself, it took me 2 hours to sort out all of the nonsense in the car, but I didn't want to go out this morning and make those mistakes. So I take my time because I enjoy it and so on, and I can relatively, I look at another camera now, but this boykie is fine. Let's look at the ISO. The ISO on 400, so 400 is good. It's good enough for an 00 blow up, but let's stick it back to 200, and on 200 I get 1000 shutter with a 6.3, which is good enough depth of field, except if there's a couple fighting. So what I'll do is I'll look at the behavior of the Gemsbok over here. You can see when they're irritated. You'll see when they start there at the back. There's a few running. That's just normal behavior. It was on a 2-stop exposure compensation. So it was not on exposure compensation on the camera, but I switched it over to video. It's got its own settings, so I had to calibrate that as well. So another mistake you can make, and also very difficult if you want to shoot stills and you want to shoot on video medium. Like the program that I'm doing now, I need to select and get enough footage to talk about the animal, but still wait for that action still shot, otherwise it's useless. So to pick the Gemsbok fight images that Harris wants to edit and do a composite for us, let me show you and tell you a short story about a Gemsbok with no horns that did extremely well against other Gemsbok with full, long and thick horns. And I've actually filmed him winning quite a couple of fights at a waterhole. So this is literally the Gemsbok over here. So yeah, this was full on action. We'll give you the speed of the shutter and the aperture settings over here, but this is a full on fight. You get a lot of mocking fights or mock fights at the waterhole because they don't really fight. This is about 6 or 7 frames a second, and it still leaves you with all of these gaps. But here you can see, I'm just going to go back to here. What happens with this guy over here is you can see that he goes in as soon as he knows that point of the horns are not actually pointing towards him. So he's got a very clever tactic of going in and then going back, and when the horns are up, he goes in and he bumps him with his head. So here you can see, you look at the sand over here, this guy is pushing, so he wants to penetrate him with the horns, and this guy here is moving backwards. You can look at what he does over here. He's moved his foot back so that he gets out of the reach of the horns over here, and as soon as that guy picks up his horns because he didn't make contact, what he will do is he will then move forward with speed of light, and he would bump him with his head at the bottom over here. You can see this guy here has received quite a nice blow. You can also see that this is quite a healthy, strong Gemsbok, and it's not that his horns have been broken off. He's been fighting for about 2-3 years like this. Here's another one example where you can see go one back, he's hit him, and he's really got some ground. He's pushed his neck towards the right over here, full on, and there he goes in again. And he does that because he wants to stay away from the front or the pointed part of his horn, so he stays inside. He's like a counterpuncher, a boxer counterpuncher that does the infighting. Here you can see he hits him again. He still keeps the horn away from his body, and then he starts moving out. He moves away from the point of the horns. You can see backwards. There, once again, he's just ducked. He moved to the side. If you can see there, he's moved to the side very quickly. You can look at the sand, the way he's moving. And he stays out of reach of the points of the horns. And then we get to the one image that shows that he's actually got no horns. And full action, full body shot. This one, the tail is a bit clipped over here, but relatively clean foreground. And this is the fine art image how this is done for me. Also, a bit of a panorama, cut it off at the top. That's the image we've used, and that's the image exactly that I've envisaged. And he's done a nice black and white, so whether you've got a preference to black and white or color, these are the images, and that's the top one that I want, and it brings the feeling exactly how I felt when I took the image. The Gemsbok is probably the most adapted antelope in the Kgalagadi, besides I think the Steenbok, because the Gemsbok is more visible, and there's something to the stripes that makes it look like a sport car, like Miss Garcia is saying, and the stripes on the face, the proud statue that it's got stands out in the desert. The fact that it can raise its body temperature from between 35 to 45 degrees Celsius, which will kill off most other animals and specifically human beings, is but one of the reasons it really is suited to the Kgalagadi. Some of the other quick facts is that morphologically they are adapted because they graze short grass, but they can also eat leaves and twigs and so on. They don't need water because they get their water from the plants and the bulbs and the roots that they eat. And they do that by eating late in the evening and early mornings when the moisture content of the plants are actually like 30% more than during the heat of the day. The other fact about the male and the female, or the Gemsbok male and female, is that you can't really see the difference, besides the fact that the males have got a bit shorter and thicker horns and the females got longer, thinner and sharper horns. And they also don't, like any other antelope, get their young and the young immediately join the herd. What happens is the female Gemsbok would take her calf out into the veld alone, away from the herd, from anything between 3 to 6 weeks, and they would rejoin when the calf starts getting patterns on the face and so on. The other difference between the Gemsbok and other antelope is that the Gemsbok bull would they live in mixed herds, and they don't like for instance the springbok during the mating season collect a lot of females, herd them together, mate with them and get and produce. They join the herd, and there's very little conflict besides the fact that sometimes when it's mating season and they're round waterholes. So round waterholes is probably the most visible for us, or the most easy for us to photograph conflict between Gemsbok, because they don't necessarily separate from the herd and tolerate each other because of survival.
You're close, hey? You're close. Okay, I'll drive away slowly. Have a nice rest. The Raptors camp on the Botswana side. Very nice camping site and a very nice lodge. And a very popular area, Raptors waterhole, to, in the past couple of years, watch a group of lion and so on. Now the advantage of this camp is quite logic, the fact that if they leave their gates at the same time we leave at Twee Rivieren, they, before the action, most probably an hour before anyone from the South African sides can get to this area. So very popular in the fact that you can come out earlier and you can stay out later, if that makes sense. So if you've got a booking in the Raptors area or the Raptors Lodge, it says 4x4s only, you would turn off here. The campsite's just in front there, and the lodge is quite visible to the left. But like I say, it's for Botswana. You need to stamp your passport at Twee Rivieren or the Botswana side, and then you got access to enter the Botswana side, which is just on the right hand side of the river that we just came down from. That's Botswana, that's South Africa, and that's the wonderful thing about this Transfrontier Park is there's no fence. You zigzag between Botswana and South Africa. Technically speaking, you can zigzag, or you do zigzag from the one country to the other. That over there is the Nossob riverbed, that side South Africa, this side of it is Botswana, so we're driving in Botswana, and therefore we need to adhere to all the regulations and laws of Botswana as soon as we enter this park. Of course, one of the big problems are that people do what they want. Look at this beautiful site over here, and nice splash pool, and if you sit over here and you watch the Kalahari, what more do you want? And how's this for a view on one of the more popular ones in the Kalahari? And this is why the people are coming to Raptors or Shebube Lodge. Tell you what, could be one of the best spots in the Kalahari.
At the Raptors or Shebube Lodge, I met Oteng, and Oteng is an absolutely contagious person when it comes to the love of the Kalahari, and especially the Kalahari lion. And he's doing quite a lot on his own to actually make sure that the lion do not escape holes in the fences and so on. That's besides his normal job of being a guide. And Oteng also knows probably all the individual lion that roams around the Raptors area. Let's listen to what Oteng's got to say about this fantastic spot over here.
Yeah, my name is Oteng Tusitse. I'm a field ranger in Shebube Lodge in Kgalagadi Transfrontier Park. But I was like passionate in like animals or nature. And in Kgalagadi here, we got like certain challenges with like our lions, whereby the population is like going down, but we as men now, we need to stand to try to take care of them, whereby all the stakeholders need to be involved, which is the Botswana government officers, the wildlife officers, and even the community of Kalahari in general needs to be involved to try to save the desert king. Because without the desert king, there is no life. And even now what is so touchy is like their mortality rate. There is like a lot of males, unlike of females, whereby the population will be keep on. As according to history, they started at 7. And now we are lucky because we have a good number. So let's try conserve them for future. And it will help also in a way of diversifying our economy, whereby tourism industry is an industry where, according to my understanding, it can be touched unless we take care of what we have.
Most concerning thing is that he's reported to me that there's 4 more lion that were shot, that broke through just close to the Red Pits area and were shot by a farmer on one shot, because the Botswana wildlife did not respond at all. And there's 2 more lion that we know of in the past 2 months as well that's been shot by farmers on the outside. And of course the lion started killing the livestock, but the response from Wildlife Services Department in Botswana is very close to non-existent. So I think with rough calculations, we're losing a lion a month at least for the past 2 years that's been shot by farmers that we know of. So how many don't we know of? So there's a serious plight out there to disclose information, number 1, and number 2, for you guys to get involved if you want to save this cats that used our tax money to actually increase from 7 in 1935 to around 460, maybe just 400 around now. Also, to remember when one drives this dune roads is to stick to the left hand side, especially if you get to rises in the road, because if you slightly on the right hand side you get head on collisions, very serious ones. And if at 40 k's or 50 k's an hour you hit each other, it's 120 kilometers an hour, and there's been some very bad accidents. As a matter of fact, just around the park it happens where there's a lot of tragic accidents. So stick to the left hand side of the road, especially if you get to the blind rises. So I've stopped just coming from Red Pits, and we've got some jackal underneath the tree there. A whole family go about their business, and I saw how quickly they jump up to actually get to what they see in the distance to go and hunt. So from there in the shade, and because it's cool today, the jackal are out, because you normally see them underground in the warm times like this, but nice cool wind and cold breeze, and they're having a nice afternoon or morning nap, and when it gets to the midday sun they would disappear into the burrows that protects them against the heat of the day. But that's a family, and I see all over in the park the families are still together. You'll see 4 or 5 jackal. They almost the same size as the adults, so very soon they'll be breaking up the families, and you'll see less 4 and 5 jackal hanging around. But they're getting a bit lazy, so let's, I think, back up. So we got over there is a lot of meerkat. You see a group of meerkat, they're standing up, and over there is the eagle in the tree, and we're gonna, it's a bit close, but let's see what we can do with that.
Driving along the riverbed is also the best way to observe resident raptors. Basically, no other tree besides the Camelthorn is large enough to allow large vultures and eagles to use as lookout points, resting places, or to build their heavy nests in. Like the striking acrobat of the air, the battler, and the Tawny Eagle, the most daring of all raptors. With no hesitation, they will fly right into a pride of feeding lions or hyenas to grab a piece of the carcass. Their colors vary from light cream to dark brown. And of course, the large eagle owls are a daily sight in the mammoth camelthorns, right next to or growing over the road where they prefer to take their daily naps.
In episode 1 of Kgalagadi Photography, I spoke to you about the backlit opportunities of photography, and there we've handled a lion that walked to the horizon in about the same lighting or the same timing as the Gemsbok that I'm going to show you right now, and backlit opportunities specifically in this time where the grasses or the mane of the lion can be accentuated and so on. So here, the Gemsbok, you know, we have to stand and wait for the Gemsbok to actually get into a specific position. And I didn't really get that over here, but if I had 4 Gemsbok that were standing with sort of double poses, with the light from behind and the white grasses accentuated and so on, you could get very extremely good silhouette or black and white images. And if you're close to the camp and the sun actually sets, and that orange grass or the manes can become an orange color, or you can get the sunset behind the horizons, that makes up one of the greatest opportunities of photography in the Kgalagadi. Then talking about backlit photography or low light or low level photography, one mustn't forget the opportunities with regards to specific plant species. And here specifically I think of the grey camelthorn that makes up to me one of the most aesthetic objects within the Kgalagadi landscapes. And with the light from behind it, the grasses sort of saturates in color at specifically the right angle, where it's sort of black shade behind the object that you want to photograph, whether that is a ostrich or a Gemsbok or a colored grass or bush with flowers or grey camelthorns. The black area or the shaded area of the dune with the sun just shining on the object actually from the back accentuates the colors and the saturations and make up probably one of the best landscape opportunities in the park. Well, that's it from Kgalagadi Photography and Joe's camera. I hope you enjoyed the trip as much as we did. See you next time in episode 4, and remember to sign up YouTube, follow us on Vimeo, and tell your friends to follow so that we can follow up with a new episode of Kgalagadi Photography.